Hello, welcome, please come in. It's time for the start of a new series, and this time, things are going to be a little bit different. I've done a lot of series on this channel, and for a variety of reasons, some games don't always get included. So, per the vote of my patrons, it's time to remedy that with some makeup work. And that starts here in Final Fantasy III with Black Mages Only. My original Black Mages Only series was released almost 2 years ago, and was so successful it fundamentally altered the course of my channel. And one of the biggest questions on those videos was, where FF3? I got the question so much, I actually released the channel's first short, because I was kind of sick of answering it. But here, today, we remedy that exclusion, to see how right or wrong I was about not including FF3 in that original series. And with the first boss dead and the first crystal jobs unlocked, we have acquired our class of interest today, Black Mage. Note that much like some other classes, we will be switching to the Magus once unlocked, but that will be much later in the game, so for now it's all Black Mage all the time. And first on the to-do list is to buy new weapons and armor for my party, and we encounter the first big problem. We can't really get Black Magic yet. Despite having Black Mage as an immediately unlocked job, the magic shop here only sells Poisona, so that may be a bit of a problem. Okay, next it's time to head south, grab an airship, and it's over to Castle Sassoon. Here I get my first copy of the Blizzard spell. So I at least have something to deal actual damage, with one character. Everyone else is still stuck with daggers. Good news is that Blizzard deals decent damage, and I do start with a lot of casts of it. I would obviously prefer more of my party to be able to cast it, but that's what we're stuck with. Relying on daggers for damage also means keeping my black mages in the front row, which is not where they should be. Okay, I've looted everywhere I can loot, gained some levels, let's head into the Sealed Cave, because it's time for the first boss, and that means it's time to spam Blizzard and Antarctic Winds. I would normally save these for later, but Black Mages can just cast Blizzara, so these are actually most useful now, and the boss never even gets an attack off, which I like. With the Jin's curse broken, the people of Kazas are no longer ghostly, which means I can have this guy attach a battering ram to my airship and finally buy spells. Hooray! Fire and Blizzard for the whole party. Mithril rods also boost intelligence. Yes, please. Anyway, airship has crashed, so it's time to take the short walk to Sid's hometown, which has tier 2 spells. Which means I now have Thunder. Seriously, why did they restrict spell access at the start of the game? It's very weird. Anyway, Sid's wife is healed at the cost of an elixir I probably shouldn't have spent, and it's time to do some mountain climbing. Then run from Bahamut, fall several kilometers away, somehow, and it's time to get Smole. As is normal, I am going to have to switch to White Mage at a few points to use Mini or Toad, but I will not be doing any fights with White Mages, just a progression requirement. In the Vikings cave, I can pick up all the tier 3 elemental spells. I can't buy these quite yet, but just having them is great. Given that the next fight is against the Giant Rat, I should probably grab a couple levels. Not that it's a super hard fight, but I will need my spells to not run out, or I can't do any more damage. And I haven't really done any leveling yet, so better to grab some levels now. And that means it's time for the Nepto Shrine. All of the treasures here are garbage, so it's boss time. The Giant Rat fight is a pain for any physical class because Mini, but it's actually quite easy for Black Mages. I burned through all of the rat's HP very quickly. Honestly, this is going a lot easier than I expected. We'll see if that stays true. And with the Giant Rat dead, I gain access to a boat! Huzzah! First destination is the Gulgan Gulch. Here I get the Toad spell for progression and some shiny equipment. We love elemental rods that boost my damage. They're great! Next up is the Tower of Owen. First to do a quick bit of grinding to get a few levels, then Toad up and into the tower proper. The treasures here are basically all garbage, so it's next boss time, Medusa. I have a limited supply of tier 2 elemental magic which deals decent but not exceptional damage, though the boost from the ice and fire rod are quite nice. Medusa can also inflict petrification, but that's a minor issue at worst. Okay, next it's over to Gissel. Here I can steal and sell a shuriken back to this shopkeeper to earn a good chunk of money and buy all the magic keys I'll ever need. And level 4 black magic. Wait, huh? Then it's over to the ancient village, which I should have visited earlier, to buy new armor and all the level 3 spells. Much better. Okay, now it's time for the dwarf town, where I need to toad up again to access the next dungeon. No useful treasure, so it's time for Gutsco. I don't have many level 4 spell slots, but Blizzaga deals nice damage while it lasts. From there it's just spam level 3 spells. My big issue, as ever, is healing. I can only buy basic potions, and they only heal 50 HP. That was barely enough HP to be useful at the start of the game, so it's definitely not good enough now. The good news is that, as ever, Black Mages deal a lot of damage very quickly, and that is more than enough to defeat Gutsco before my party starts to drop. And then it's time for the Molten Cave. Another dungeon with no interesting treasure and a difficult boss at the end, the Salamander. Good news, Blizzaga deals stupidly high damage. Bad news, Blaze deals huge damage back to my entire party. However, Salamander wastes 2 turns with basic attacks, and that is exactly enough of a lapse in damage for my party to survive and win the fight. And yeah, wow, Black Mages, as ever, deal a lot of damage and really only struggle to heal, which will continue. In no small part because the next dungeon is Hein's Castle. The enemies here are not difficult and the treasures are all garbage, so we arrive at the next boss, Hein, who has an elemental barrier, which creates complications. Hein also hits very hard. Good news is I have an okay stock of high potions, which do heal a lot. Bad news is I have no way to scan his elemental barrier, so I have to rely on the old strategy of hitting with basic elemental spells to determine his weakness, then use stronger elemental spells to actually deal damage, then repeat when Hein resets his barrier every 3rd turn. The good news is that between my limited high potions and Hein not attacking every 3 turns, I can keep the party alive while I take out the rest of his health. Hein is honestly a pushover most of the time, even without a Scholar or a White Mage. Okay, it's over to Castle Argus. I could have looted a lot of these chests earlier, but they are also not particularly exciting, so it's fine. I'm really only here now to get the Wheel of Time from the King, which I can take to Sid to turn my boat into an airship. So it's time to leave the flying continent and fly over to this boat. 1 antidote and Arya joins the party for exactly as long as it takes to pick up the Water Crystal Shard and take it to the Water Crystal Chamber, and she then leaves for some reason. And it's next boss fight time. Kraken, who is always easier than Salamander, and that remains mostly true here. I do have to stop to heal from hits because Kraken deals big damage with its physical attacks. On the other hand, Thundara deals a lot of damage, ending this fight very quickly. Kraken is dead, so the world is undrowned, and it's time to dive into the sewers. The treasures here are more nothing, and other than this fight against basic goblins, nothing interesting happens here. At the end, I get the Levagrass shoes and can reach Goldor Manor. Would you believe there are no good treasures in this dungeon? Fantastic, you possess pattern recognition. At least I'll be able to sell these swords. And now it's up to Goldor, and this fight is going to be the first actual problem. Goldor has a really high magic resistance, even Blizzaga is barely breaking 200 damage. Lesser spells aren't even worth casting. Being in the back row helps mitigate the damage Goldor deals, but only for his basic attacks, not his very dangerous spells. And while I do have some high potions, they are not infinite. And being in the back row also limits my physical damage. There's also the slight problem that sometimes Goldor deals more damage than one of my characters has max health, which is a problem. All of this amounts to a fight that is exhausting and tedious. So yeah, pro tip, do not try to use magic in this fight, it is awful. This is one of the few pre-endgame fights I was genuinely a bit concerned about, and I was correct to be concerned. Okay, I think I just need to do some grinding. My damage is trash and I really need to get those numbers up or Goldor can just outlast me. Oh, I never did check the item shop here, did I? I'm a moron. Anyway, let me max out my high potions. That, combined with a few levels, should be more than enough to get me through this fight. Let's see, shall we? And let me actually see about putting my party in the front row. It means more physical damage from Goldor, but also means way more physical damage from me. Besides, Goldor's spells are way more dangerous than his physical attacks anyway, and the back row does nothing for that. And yeah, those damage numbers look way better. I mean, they're still awful, but they are better. And now that I actually bought high potions, I have to worry a lot less about running out of healing mid-fight. So this is kind of inevitable, unless I get really unlucky with healing, which I don't. And he dies. Fantastic, that means I finally have my airship back. Hooray! And my first destination is Duster, which has better bracers for the party and some okay consumable items that I will never actually use. Then over to Repleto, nothing useful in the shops but some decent items to find, and then get shot down over Saronia. Rescue the prince from this band of jerks, which is very easy, thanks to black magic. But then comes the actual problem, Garuda. And while I am 100% certain I cannot win this fight yet, I'm gonna try anyway, mostly just to see how far out of reach victory is. And the answer is honestly not as far as I thought. Lightning damage is really devastating to my party. On the other hand, Blizzaga is dealing really good damage. And while Garuda can feel insurmountable, he doesn't actually have that much HP. So let's get a bit of grinding to up my damage and health, and dive back in. And those levels have done good work for my damage. I can also survive 2 lightnings across the board, meaning I can, in fact, use high potions to maintain my party a bit while casting Blizzaga. The damage to healing ratio is still pretty bad, but it only needs to be positive to make a difference. Garuda dead, and I can loot the castle for honestly mostly garbage and talk to these engineers to get my new airship, the Nautilus. The shops around Saronia have also unlocked, and that means new armor, level 5 spells, and I can finally buy more rods. No more swapping rods around mid-combat for elemental boosts. I just have them now. Hooray! Fast airship acquired, it's time to head over to Doga's Manor, buy level 6 spells, and then head through a mini-maze. And now I can access underwater locations. And first on that list is the Sunken Cave. There are a lot of items here, mostly trash. At least the encounters are fairly easy and give decent experience. Probably wasn't actually worth coming down here for, but you know, more experience is better. Okay, let's do the Temple of Time. Most of the treasures here are unhelpful for black mages, but the 2 protect rings more than make up for it. Anyway, this dungeon has no boss, I just need to pick up this loot. Take this over to Unei's shrine to wake her up, and we need to head over to the ancient ruins. I forgot to talk to Unei again. Good lord, I keep doing this. Waking her up and then just bailing. Okay, back to the ancient ruins, where I can actually progress. Oh, the shop here actually sells something useful. Nice, we love new armor. Anyway, this is another dungeon with no boss in it, but completing this unlocks the invincible Airship Extraordinaire, which sells even more black magic, which is going to be very useful very shortly. But with the invincible in hand, I can access some more areas. First up is Lake Dor. Most of these items are trash, but not all of them. Then over to Bahamut's Lair, which is the same issue of mostly useless items. At least the enemies are good for grinding out experience. Okay, optional nonsense done. It's time to navigate the most annoying maze in history. Yeah, Cave of Shadows time. Say it with me now. There are no useful treasures in this dungeon. And it's boss time. Hecaton Care. I don't really have a plan for this fight. I guess I'll just spam Thundaga, which to be fair is dealing pretty good damage. 1500 per cast is great. And the boss is dead. Okay, well, really glad they buffed offensive magics and stuff of 1. Otherwise, this run might actually be a struggle. Anyway, completing that gets me the last Fang, so it's time to take my fast airship over to Doga's Manor and fight 2 more bosses. First up is Doga. He can be pretty scary because Flare deals... Why did that deal so little damage? I mean, it was almost 1,000, but Flare normally deals way more than that. 600? Do black mages just super resist magic damage? Anyway, on to Unei. I start the fight in not the best health, which isn't ideal, but Thundaga is dealing good damage, and Unei's spells are even less threatening than normal. I wasn't really expecting this fight to be difficult, but I was expecting more than this. Not like a lot more, but definitely more. Okay, well with those 2 defeated, the way is cleared for the final areas of the game. And surely those won't absolutely suck. Why would they? Anyway, let's dive into the Titan fight. Magic is dealing a lot less damage than I'd prefer, almost like the endgame is poorly balanced. At least high potions should still be fairly useful. I also don't really have any good healing, so spamming high potions is going to have to do, because that's all I've got. This is honestly one of the harder fights I've had to deal with, mostly because my damage is not great and high potions are really starting to drop off. The reward for beating this fight though is the Magus class, which has way better late spell access, better stats. It's really just, what if Black Mage was better? And that's great. Oh, now that I have Magus, I should actually get level 7 spells, because I never actually did that for some reason? Maybe just because Black Mages get very few level 7 spell slots? Oh well, these can be bought in Doga's village, easily accessible via submarine. Oh, I also never did the Saronia Catacombs. This place has 4 elixirs I desperately want. Why am I using Warp? I have Otter Shrooms. Anyway, back to the Ancient's Maze, and yeah, the spell damage is looking way better now that I have the improved intelligence from Magus. Ooh, Omnirod. Huge intelligence boost and boost to all elements. And another Protect Ring? It must be Christmas. Into the Crystal Tower and immediately into Eureka. There are some decent treasures here, and some dangerous monsters. Actually, how does Drain perform? Not great. Not terrible though. Aside from a few elixirs and a ribbon, I'm actually here for this final shop, because it sells level 8 spells, most valuable of which is Flare. Level 8 spells are expensive though, so it's time to do some money and experience grinding to actually afford them. And yeah, Flare is doing really good work. So happy to have level 8 spells. And with all that done, it's time for the final sequence, a harrowing gauntlet through the Crystal Tower, and finally to deal with the endgame boss rush that is always the biggest thorn in my side. And so far, Black Mages, and now Maguses, have been crushing it, but here is usually where that ends. So let's see how the first attempt at this boss rush goes, and that starts with Xande. And let's see, ooh, that's incredible damage with Flare, like shockingly good. And Xande does hit back very hard. Let's see if Drain can restore enough HP to compensate. And the answer is no, not really, though it is closer than I honestly would have expected. I really just need to get lucky and hope that Xande doesn't spam his most dangerous spells too much and Wait, really? He's dead? But I'm not even a high level yet. This was only supposed to be a fact-finding mission to see how much stronger I need to be to actually start this gauntlet. Okay, well, I guess we then go do the two-headed dragon next. This boss can usually one-shot any character, so it's really just a question of how fast I can kill it, and how many Phoenix Downs it'll cost me. And the answer is more than I'd like, but still way lower than I can compensate for. This is really going quite well. Okay, next up is to take down a Zonde clone to grab another ribbon, of which I will need all of them. Okay, guess next on the list I'll go Cerberus? This is the least dangerous of the 4 bosses here. Its attacks do weirdly little damage to my party, so I can really just spam Flare pretty consistently. I do sometimes have to switch to Drain, which is fine, I have plenty of casts of that, to keep my health high, but after not too long, yep, that's 2 bosses down. Okay then, next up, another Zonde clone for another ribbon, and it's into the next boss fight against Echidna. Echidna, like me, has considerable magic at its disposal. Flare is still dealing really good damage though, and the occasional drain is more than enough to cope with meteors and flares, which is frankly pretty surprising. This is going suspiciously well. Okay, one more Zonde clone and that makes 4 ribbons acquired and only 1 boss remaining, Ahriman. Ahriman is even more dangerous than Echidna, with devastating spells that it loves to spam to devastate the party, and just when you think you might be making progress, it'll cast Kiraja. Its spells aren't actually more dangerous than Echidna, but it definitely casts Meteor and Quake more, which can make maintaining health a lot trickier. Oh, right, Kiraja only heals 5000 HP. That's like 1 flare. Okay, I guess it's time for Cloud of Darkness? And Cloud of Darkness has no chill, using Particle Beam basically every turn. And while Drain is pretty good at maintaining health, it's not enough to out-heal Particle Beam. I'm actually pretty surprised that Particle Beam is dealing as little damage as it is. And Flare is still dealing a lot of damage. It's not, Monk or Shuriken damage, but it's not bad. But that's okay. That's why we brought every elixir in the game to this fight, because nothing short of that was going to be sufficient here. I've lost to Magus early in the fight, which is not ideal, but that's the reality of dealing with Cloud of Darkness. Sometimes attack times are bad and you just have to make it work. In this case, it didn't, but that's okay. I honestly made it way farther in this fight than I expected. I really just need to do some light grinding to get a few more levels to shore up my offense. And because Flare deals so much damage, this should not take very long. Okay, we are hopping back into this fight with a few levels gained. HP is the biggest change because it should give me some leeway on healing, but Drain may also be dealing more damage. Okay, that number looks the exact same. Okay, new plan. Drain is a waste of time, we're just going with elixirs, and I've lost 2 Megases, which is an awful start, and 3 Megases. Okay, maybe this isn't the run. I really wish Megases were faster. Okay, you know what, we're just gonna try that again. And this time, it's Flare spam and Elixir spam. Drain isn't strong enough to be worth using, and I'm just going to believe that the speed disparity isn't going to screw me over. Will that be true? Let's find out together. Honestly, my Megases are going after Cloud of Darkness pretty consistently, so if I use Elixirs assuming that is going to be the case, I can functionally accomplish the same healing, just slightly different. And while this fight still takes a while, because why does this boss have that much HP, eventually Cloud of Darkness drops to the overwhelming Flare spam. And that was Final Fantasy III, beaten with only Black Mages and Megases, and I did enjoy that. Black magic is surprisingly strong in this game in some very fun ways, and having finally done this run, I can close one gap in a prior challenge series that really needed to be closed. But I will have more to say about that in the summary video, out in a few weeks. I did want to shout out that I do have a Patreon, linked in the description. I spend a lot of time making these videos, so if you enjoyed the video, want to support the channel, and are financially stable enough to do so, that exists. No pressure though, this channel is free to enjoy for everyone, and will remain that way. For now, if you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. If you'd like to see more of this, feel free to subscribe. Hey, maybe leave a comment if you have something you'd like to say. But whatever you decide to do, have a safe trip home.